Hello, everyone. My name is Chloe, and tonight it is the Booktube Chicks Book Club. If you've never been to one of our book clubs before, tonight we were talking about Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And this was our discussion for the month of May. As usual, I'm here with my amazing co host, Kathleen, who's going to introduce herself in just a moment. But if you've never been to one of our live shows before, the way that it is going to work is for the first couple minutes, we're going to do introductions as well as just a general overview, what you thought of the book, and then we're going to get into spoiler discussion. So, Kat, if you would like to go ahead and start.
Hi, I'm Kathleen, and my channel's for the love of books. Not that I upload anymore, and I have Instagram. It's all linked down below, I guess. Um, this book was my pick for this month, and I actually enjoyed it. But by Chloe's reaction earlier, I don't think she liked it. This book, I rated it. It's technically on Goodreads as a 4, but that's a placeholder. Usually, as soon as I finish a book, I'll rate it, and then I let myself digest a book before I adjust a rating if I feel like I need to adjust a rating. But right now I'm between a 3 and a 4. This book was very different from what I was expecting. Normally I'm a thriller mystery sort of reader, and this book had the elements of a mystery. Not a spoiler, but basically one of the girls dies, and this book is basically about her life, her family, and finding out why she died or how she died. And so there's a lot of family dynamics within this book. This book is also set in like the 70s, I want to say. So it's still at the height of like the aftermath of like the revolution. I'm sorry, not the civil rights movement of the 60s. And so this book touches upon a lot of discrimination and racism, especially within the Asian American community. So it touches upon a lot of important topics. It also talks about expectations of parents on their children. It talks about more of a women's rights movement as well. In this book, it talks about suicide and as I said, family dynamics. So there was a lot of important topics that this book touched upon. Do I think it was done well? I think the story was strong. I just think that maybe it's because I did listen to the book. For me, 99% of the time now I listen to the book while I follow it on the e-reader format or a physical format. So I'm always listening to the book, and so sometimes the narrator does have an influence on how I feel about the book. And I don't think the narrator by any means was horrible. Uh, but I feel like they didn't deliver the book as well as I wanted it, if that makes any sense. Um, but I did enjoy the book. It touched upon a lot of did I love the book? No, I think it was okay, but the topics that it touched, I think, is really, really important. I think that's what's driving my high rating, because I think that the topics that they touched upon, the important topics, I think it was done well. Uh, Aside from that, I think the story moved a little slow, um, and it wasn't as like thriller fast as I mentioned, as I like to read thrillers because they're really fast moving and they kind of keep you on the edge of your seat kind of thing. And this wasn't that by any means. Anyway, long run over. It's right now hovering between a 3 and a 4.
And my name is Chloe. You're on my channel. You can find me most active on Instagram at Brunette Bibliophile. I gave this book 2 stars. um, I think let's really look at it at its core here. I just don't think literary fiction is for me. And the funny thing is, I say that as somebody who 2-3 weeks ago read a literary fiction and really loved it. However, that literary fiction was really bizarre. So I think that's kind of what was the driving force
Wait,
behind
what was it?
it. It was Sky Daddy. Which
Girl, that is not no. But
I
okay,
know.
let's move on.
No, I know. I know. For some reason, it has said it is a literary fiction, and I didn't understand it, and yet somehow it was a literary fiction. But that's not the point. The point is, I just don't think literary fiction is for me. And this is one of those books that is like that. And it tries to use, and it tries to use flowery language or like, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Elevated language. And I'm sure it works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me. Um, that's not to say that this is a bad book, because this book definitely has an audience. The ratings show that it has an audience. I'm not that audience, which is fine. Which is fine. Um, but before I get more into it, I was listing some trigger warnings out, and you had actually mentioned some that I didn't write down. So overall, like I'm thinking it is trigger warnings for death of a child, sibling, family member, discussion of suicide, racism, and discrimination. And then if there's any more that we remember throughout the show, we can mention them. Um, my I have two main points with not liking this book. The first one is the time jumps and who we're following confused the hell out of me. It would be like, okay, one moment we're in the present, we're at the funeral. And the next moment it would be like 10 years earlier, this is why my wife left me, or something like that. And I was so confused a lot of the time. And even though it's written in third person, we jump between characters so much that I had a hard time keeping up. Um um I had another point. What was the other thing I said? Time jumps were confusing, and I don't remember. I was really interested in wanting to know why she died, and I like I was thinking it was going to be something like mysterious or nefarious, and I know there was a kind of like a red herring element with Jack. We weren't really sure what his intentions were. Um but ultimately I needed more, and this wasn't it for me. Um which is unfortunate because it is such a like highly rated book. I think on Goodreads it won in the debut category. I have to double check. But that was 11 years ago. Um but yeah, I just 2 stars. I was bored. For a lot of it I was also bored. Anyway, go ahead, Kat. What did you like?
I guess we're moving to spoilers. Um, I like that it realistic. So the father, I forget his name, Nate, James. His name was James, and I liked his insecurity when it comes because I felt it was realistic when it came to his place in society, being an Asian American man and in a predominantly white community that he lived in, and his wife is white. And again, this is taking place in the 1970s. It's right now, even with the civil rights movement being in the 60s, I mean, even today in our society in the 2020s, um, racial tensions are high, and for him, he has a lot of trauma from the things that he experienced, that he projected that into his family. So for example, in the end, when his wife finds out that he was cheating, and he used the fact that she was white, so she didn't understand how he felt. So he took comfort in the arms of his student. He was a college professor, by the way, if you're watching. He's a college professor. He took comfort in the arms of his student who happened to be an Asian American woman. So he felt that his student could relate to him better than his wife. So he started cheating on his wife. Not that it's an excuse. In fact, it's a really, really dumb excuse. It's one of the worst excuses I've heard. But I think that that's a realistic expectation, a realistic, not expectation, a realistic story of what many people who face discrimination um experience, that they project that into their family, and sometimes they don't realize that their family is seeing something different, because his wife never like he thought that she could do so much better than him, and then when in the past, when she left him for those 9 weeks when her mother died, and she went back to, like, arrange the house that her mother left behind because she died, he thought that she left him because she wasn't planning on coming back. She thought she left him because he was an Asian American man, and she didn't want to be with an Asian man anymore because of the things that they experienced being a mixed race couple. And in the end, that wasn't it at all. She just wanted her freedom. She didn't want to be a homemaker, and that's what she became when she married him. And so, being back in her mother's house, she thought, hey, I became a homemaker, which was what my mother wanted me to be, and I want to be a doctor. And so she tried to live on her own and try to make her dream come true. And so he projected like his insecurities and his life experience with being different in a predominantly white society at the time that where he lived and into her. And I feel like that was realistic to me. And so so the stories of these topics within the book I feel were very, very good. And so that's why I liked the book. But I also feel like the book was just bland. Like not necessarily the story itself, but I feel like the way it was told was bland. Um and also the talk about the way he favored his daughter Lydia because she looked more like her mom, who was white, and then he tended to be more abusive or more meaner to his son because he looked more Asian, he looked more like him, and so he projected those insecurities regarding himself being a Asian man onto his children, and it was just there's so much happening in this book, and I think that those topics were done well. I didn't love the book as much as I wanted to love, so
So I have 2 points here. One, I think the mom, Marilyn, I think she was having some kind of identity crisis as well. And that's what caused her to suddenly just up and leave. But the second thought that I had, and I just thought about this, is here's a better way that this could have been told is even though it's not it's kind of a mystery, but even though it's not really a mystery, it could have been told like as in like a almost like a three-part, like, first we're following all of Marilyn, then we're following all of the husband, then we're following all of the brother, and then we get the truth and we're following Lydia. I feel like that
yeah,
would have been awesome,
yeah.
instead of all this back and forth that we had that was just too confusing.
I agree with you that there was because when I was reading the book, we were suddenly in the past, we were talking about, for example, an example was Marilyn being back in her mother's house
Mhm,
and deciding she's going to stay. And all of a sudden, we're jumping to the funeral and then we're jumping in. It was just, I agree with you on the time jumps should have been more clear.
mhm.
And yeah, I feel like the time just should be more clear. And because these chapters are so long and she's packing so much into these chapters, I feel like she should have done like a lot of authors do when they do time jumps in their stories, they do like a before or
Mhm.
then or present, or they put dates sometimes, or like I feel like she should have perhaps broken down her chapters and not put packed so much into one chapter, and then we're following like the past, the past, the present within one chapter.
That is another thing that you brought up that grinds my gears is I hate long chapters.
Yes.
And this whole book only had 12 chapters. I think the longest one was like 75 minutes or something like that on the
Yeah.
audiobook.
I was just about to say it was like 73-ish minutes.
That
Yeah.
is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I hate long chapters. I hated it.
And the thing is, the book is not even that long. It's 292 pages.
Yes.
So it's a short book, but when you have long chapters, it feels like the book is longer than it should
Going
be.
on and on and on. Yes.
Yeah. Um,
I just Okay. So just for sake of like having stuff to talk about, because I'm just like, I didn't like it. I don't want to talk about it. Um, let's break it down by character, I guess, and we can talk about like each character. Um, so we already kind of talked about Marilyn. I want to talk about more about the brother. Um, actually, no.
Nath.
Let me back that up. I want to talk about the dad because you brought up a point that is annoying. Is he wanted, I had to reread the synopsis to actually understand it. He wanted Lydia to be really popular and like, oh, everybody's wearing this dress right now, or oh, you have all these friends, right? How about
He
you go?
wanted her to fit in because I
Yeah.
feel like I said, he's trying to he's projecting his insecurities onto his children,
Hmm.
and because he grew up he was probably we didn't get a lot of glimpses into his childhood, but because of the way he acted toward his children, I think that he was probably bullied and probably didn't have any friends, was probably left alone, probably was super unpopular being uh, a minority in a predominantly like white neighborhood. So I think he pushed her so much to be popular that because I think at the end of the day he had good intentions because he didn't want her to experience the same things that he did. But I think both the mom and the dad went everything about it the wrong way. He wanted her to be popular, Lydia, and the mom wanted her to be a doctor, and that I feel like they never took into account what she wanted to do. And
Yeah,
the son.
and these parents are just kind of like trying to vicariously live through their child.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh,
especially the mom, yeah.
hmm. Yeah. So Nath. Um, so he okay. So there are times as we're following him through the different ages, because again, everything was so scattered, that I kind of felt like he was being a little bit of an asshole to Lydia.
He
Um,
was.
but he didn't know why she needed
Yeah.
so much.
I think that was also part of the miscommunication, because Lydia was the one who was getting the parents' attention so much that he was kind of like he and his little sister. I feel sorry for the little sister Hannah. He and his little sister were kind of just cast aside. They were kind of like the wallpaper of the family,
She
and
was
I
in the
think he
attic too.
yeah, and, I think I don't think he realized that Lydia didn't want the attention that the parents
Hmm.
gave her, and, it was just miscommunication. She did not want the attention that the parents gave her, and he didn't see that he thought that she relished in the attention that her parents gave
Yeah.
her, and, I mean, that's not true, and the kid, he went to Harvard. I feel like if I had a child and my child got, accepted to Harvard, one of the most prestigious schools in the country, even in the 70s, I would be ecstatic. I would throw a party. I would throw a huge celebration. And I feel
Mhm.
like, yes, they were happy for him, but it was still overshadowed by them wanting to push Lydia to be her best. And I'm like, you have a son who just got accepted into one of the best schools in the country. And I'm like, I feel like a little more enthusiasm is warranted.
Yeah.
And I feel like he also wanted a huge celebration and he wanted a little bit of the attention. And I think that's why he treated Lydia so bad. I mean, wasn't there the scene that he's the one who pushed her the first time she almost drowned? He pushed her and then he realized that he was being an asshole and he saved her.
Possibly. I don't remember.
Yeah. But at the end, I also think that the biggest victim in this is Hannah, even though she wasn't the one who died. I think Hannah was the biggest victim because this poor kid, she's
She
so
was just
young.
forgotten about. Even
Yes,
to me, she
exactly.
was just forgotten.
I mean, it wasn't until the very end that I feel like her parents like saw that she exists. There was one scene where they were talking about like how the mother forgot that she existed to the point where put she didn't feed her, so she had made 4 plates for dinner, and then she
Yes.
realized that she was missing one because the little girl showed up to the dinner table, and
Poor kid.
I was like, "That's so horrible."
Uh, okay, so talk about Nath. Oh, and also, I can't remember. I think this might have been in the dad's perspective where he took Nath to the swimming pool and he wanted to leave because he was being made fun of.
Oh yeah.
He was being called these racist derogatory names as well. And the dad's just like, "Go have fun, go play. Like, we just got here. We drove all the way here for this." Like, bruh.
And I think was that the scene also where they that the kids were playing Marco Polo
Yeah,
and
I think so.
then yeah, he was being the one calling out Marco and all the kids were like laughing at him because oh and then he finally realized, oh well, let's go home, let's leave.
Ugh, Jesus. Okay. Um and then we talked about, okay, let's talk about Lydia then. Can you refresh me, like, do we actually find out how she died, right? Like, was it a suicide or was
I
just ruled as a suicide?
I think it was a suicide. It doesn't explicitly say. It just says that it gives her like we're reading from her POV,
Mhm.
um and then she's realizing everything about her life and how her parents expect so much from her and then her siblings are being overshadowed by her. And then I thought that in that moment that she was just gonna go back and that she like slips and drowns by accident, but the chapter ends, was it the chapter or that part of the chapter ends with her and then she stepped off the boat into the water. So I'm like, okay, so she did commit suicide, but it was more like I feel like the way we see suicide is that someone's so sad that they don't see
Mhm.
anything worth living for. I feel like she accepted that her only step, her next step, if she wants any like sort of peace, was to just it was just very, it wasn't like an emotional scene.
Mhm.
It for me, it just felt very like, okay, I'm just gonna kill myself. You know what I mean? Very nonchalant sort of thing. It was just a weird like ending to that scene where she was like, and then she stepped off the boat, and I'm like, okay, what is happening?
I will say and give credit to this book of when we're hearing about Lydia and how, like, run down she is and everything, I could feel that. Like,
Yeah,
I was just like, "This is rough." And, ultimately, I think what she is doing is she feels like she has to do it because
yeah,
earlier when the mom had left, she wished, like, and said, like, "If she comes back, like, I'll always do this. I'll never do this again, and this and that and the other. I'll always be everything that I need for my mom, or I need to be for my mom." And I
yeah,
feel like she just felt like she had to. She had no choice. She had no autonomy in the whole spiel of it.
yeah, yeah.
Going back to Nath and the ending of the book, because we go back to his perspective, with I believe Jack was also there, his not so friend, but Lydia's friend. Did it also seem like he was trying to die at the end too? Or like he wasn't drowning necessarily, but he was in the lake?
Yeah, I think he was I don't know. I feel like he was trying to connect to Lydia because towards the end I got, from the way I read the scene, is that he finally understood his sister and the pressure that she had on her. And
Mhm.
so I think that he was there to just try to connect with her.
Understand.
Yeah.
But I had to re-listen to the ending again just to, like, fully understand it. Is it that he kind of, like, had a vision of her or saw her as he was coming up from the water?
Oh,
That's what
I'm
was confusing to me.
I'm not sure. I will have to reread it, but I don't think I don't know. Not
Okay.
sure.
Well,
Yeah.
what do you wanna talk about? Because 'Cause I've run out of things now. I just ran through all the
The
characters.
whole thing with Jack, were you surprised that it turned out that he was, I feel like they vilified him so much in the blog, in the book. They were like, especially Nath, he was like, "Oh, he's a bad guy, don't go near him." And then
Yeah.
Lydia had this idea in her head that he was a bad boy and that she was gonna like mess around with him to kind of um show off to her parents kind of thing. And then it turns out he was gay, in love with Nath. And the
I
whole time, like, we find out that Hannah, the little girl, she knew it because she's so much in the background that the only thing that she does is observe, and she
Mhm.
noticed that.
I think we thought of him so much as a villain because we only really saw him from
Yeah,
Nate's perspective until we finally got to Lydia's part of the story.
yeah,
And, like, you know how they always say there's, like, 2 sides to every story, your side, my side, and then the truth? Like, that's what I feel like this whole book was about, really.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think I felt bad for him too because he's at a time where it was basically a death sentence to even be gay as well, so
Yeah.
the
Um,
'70s were wild, so
I feel like this is one of those moments where Will would look at me and he'd be like, "You remember the '70s?" And I'm like, "You don't remember the '70s."
Um, I don't have anything. I think I talked about everything that I
So
wanted to.
do you think you would stay with a 4-star rating?
Uh, I I don't know. It's between I might bump it down to 3.5, but
Mhm,
right now I'm not sure. Because I enjoyed like I said, I enjoyed the important parts of the book, and I think that
mhm,
they were done well. I just think that the storytelling aspect of it was a little bland.
mhm,
And there were things about it that irritated me, like you mentioned, the time jumps and the long chapters, and so
mhm.
usually a 4-star book for me is a book that I really, really like, so
Yeah, I always feel like because a 3-star for me is I was just bored, but I didn't, like, hate it, and, like, a 4-star for me is, like, it was good, so, I mean,
yeah.
okay, let's see. Well, I guess then we could probably do our final thoughts while I pull up, next month's book because I can't remember what it is.
Okay. My final thoughts are I still don't know what to rate this. It is currently at a 4. It's between 3.5 and 4 stars. I enjoyed the story because it touched upon a lot of important issues, especially in the '70s. That's racial discrimination. We touched a little bit about gender discrimination with the mom, um, and we talked about how those affect an everyday family. We talked about we touched a little bit upon the LGBT discrimination as well, a little bit. And there's mentions of suicide and how society can really impact a family, which in turn impacts the children and also in turn kind of almost decides their future for them in terms of the suicide. And It it was a good story. I just felt like it wasn't told as emotionally, perhaps is the word, as it should be, especially the topics that we're dealing with. But I enjoyed the story. I liked it. I think it's important. I think it touches upon important things, and I think it touched upon those important things in a good way. It was just a storytelling aspect for me that I didn't love it as much as a lot of people on Goodreads seem to have loved this book. So right now it's between 3 and a 4.
Yeah, and I'm giving it 2 stars. Ultimately, I think it's because literary fiction is not for me. Um, and I agree with the fact that this story is a story that should be told. The reviews are a reflection of that. It has an important messages in it, especially considering it is set in the '70s. But there were just so many negatives that went against it for me. The long chapters, the time jumps were too confusing. And ultimately, I just think that there is a better way to write this story, even if it had been like following each character individually until we got to the truth. Um, and overall, I just didn't really have a good time with this book. But I do understand that there is an audience for it, and that audience just isn't me. So talking about June, we are going to be reading The Fortunes of Jaded Women by Carolyn Hunn. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the last name. And we are going to be having a live discussion for this on June 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. That is the last Sunday of the month, and it'll be on this channel as per usual. Take a look at our Instagram, which is linked down below at Booktube Chicks, for all upcoming announcements related to anything under the Booktube Chicks umbrella. In a couple of days, we should be having the announcement of the next Pages and Pals live show, as well as talking about this book as well coming up. And probably in the next couple of weeks, we will have the next quarterly romance book club pick announced as well for quarter 3. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to check out all the links in the description below, including Kat's channel. And we will see you all next month for our June discussion. Bye.